So, how much do you charge as a media composer? Let's talk about a few different approaches to this. Say the director asks, how much do you charge for 30 minutes of music? Or actually, let's say 40 minutes of music. So before you answer that, you should first ask him or her what the music budget is. So that'll give you kind of an idea of what you're working with. So try to find that out first before you give any of your rates, just to kind of test the waters and see what kind of budget there is, if there's a budget for hiring musicians and stuff like that on top of your hourly rate, which is what we're going to talk about next, because a lot of composers aren't sure what to charge for their music. And I figured out that if you think of an hourly rate for what you do, then it makes it a little easier to kind of have an idea of what you should charge. But let's talk about how much music you can write in an hour. I read somewhere a while ago, I forget what book it was, but it said that the average film composer composes 1 to 5 minutes of music per 5 to 8 hour day. And of course, that could be like a 12-hour day. It's not always 8 hours, but that's kind of the average. And I think in my own experience, that's pretty much true. You know, some days go really well and you get like more than 5 minutes. Others you get like 30 seconds for 8 hours of work. You know, it depends, but usually it's somewhere between 1 and 5 minutes of music per 5 to 8 hours. So that's what you should think about when someone says, okay, we need 40 minutes of music. So if they're kind of not telling you what the music budget is yet, then you can kind of use this rate. But first try to gauge what their budget is. From that point, you want to decide how much you want to get per hour of your work. So I think of like different brackets of the pay scale. So like $12.50 per hour, $25 per hour, $50, $100, and $200. So you want to try to get between $50 to $100 per hour, I think. I mean, it depends on the film. There's a lot of other factors. We're going to talk about that. And it's not always about money, but you should at least let the director know what you normally charge per hour for your work, or, you know, for the music in general. And then you can go from there. So that's good practice, I think. So what should you base your pay scale decision on? That's the question that you have to ask. And there are a couple ways to approach this. So I think, like I said, try for 50 to 100 per hour. But if you agree to less, then it should be for these reasons. Number one is, will you be able to use the work for your reel, for your demo reel, to get more work? So is it on the caliber of, you know, depending where you are in your career, is it something you could use to further your career? If it's something below like quality of what you've already done, then I would say don't lower your pay scale. But if it's something at or above where you are in your quality of your work, then you should think about that, so you could use it for your reel to get more work. So that's one of the factors where you would lower your pay scale to like $12.50 or something like that, or whatever. You know, and keep in mind, these are just guidelines. This is just the way I approach it, so I thought it might be helpful to you guys in your own, when you're trying to figure out how much to charge. So this isn't, you know, you could totally disagree with this, whatever, but it's just the way I approach it, and it makes it easier for me to think of a ballpark kind of something to give the director when they ask you this question. Number two is, will it better you as a composer? So if you're not getting that higher pay scale, will the work make you a better composer? Will it take you out of your comfort zone? Like, say you're doing a bunch of horror movies and sci-fi, whatever, and someone approaches you with a romantic comedy. You may want to take that just for the experience. So that that's one of the factors that, say they don't have a big budget for music, you may take that and take a hit on the money to kind of further your experience in something you're not used to. So that, a different genre, something like that, could really help you develop. So I think that's another factor for this. And the third thing is it a director that you maybe want to work with down the line? Like you see that they're developing and their work is getting better. So you may want to, if you really love their work, you may take less money because you're going to develop like a working relationship with them. So that's something to think about. If you see them growing and you're growing, and that's where you kind of want to get in. And you see that all, you think of like, there's a lot of composer, filmmaker duos that kind of started early on working together and developed into like a great relationship. So those three things I think are important factors to think about if you want to lower your pay scale. But regardless, you should still let the director know what you normally charge so that they're not, so they know that what they're getting, the caliber of that, and it should reflect what you think your work is worth. So let's talk about this pay scale thing. So like I said, average composer does 1 to 5 minutes of music per day. So to break that down, let's say it's 2 minutes of music per 5 hours. So getting back to our original, what the director asks for 40 minutes. So if we use this, we'll say 20 times 5 is 100 hours of work. So 40 minutes of music would be 100 hours of work, right? So at $12.50 an hour, that'd be $1,250 for the whole project. So that's the lower end of the thing. But you want to try to get, like I said, 50 to 100 per hour. So that would be like 5,000 or 10,000 for the whole project. Now this doesn't include hiring musicians. So that's another, and sometimes you want to lower your pay scale if you think it's a great project and use that money to hire players. So you may take some of the money out of what you're charging to pay players, even if it's like soloists. If you want a couple soloists on the project, then that's something you could decide to do, depending on, what you think of the project and if it's going to lead to something else. And so, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So I think, and if you charge 100 for an hour, it'd be 10,000 for the project. I think I said that. Or 200 an hour would be 20,000 for the project. So I don't like to think of things in like hourly rates, because then it sounds like you have like a desk job or something. But it's good. It's a good way to sort of gauge what your time is worth, right? Because you're putting time into this, writing music. And you should think of it like an hourly rate, even just to give you an idea of what to charge. So I hope that's helpful. I mean, this is for more like independent films and things like that. Obviously, big budget films, we're talking like hundreds of thousands to hire orchestras and things like that. But I think hopefully this will give you an idea of the things to think about when you talk to the director about how much you want to charge for 40 minutes of music or whatever. Now, it also depends, like the pay scale can depend on, like, just one more thing before we stop. The pay scale it could be a really dense project, like like a lot of action sequences. Because if you're writing an action sequence, it's usually a lot denser note-wise, and it takes a lot more work. So an action cue, that may take you a couple days to get like 1 or 2 minutes, because it's so dense usually. I mean, that isn't always the case, but that's an example. If it's like an action movie, then you're going to be putting a lot of time in, so you'd want to charge like 50 to 100 per hour, because it's going to be a lot of time and a lot of really intense work. So that's another thing to think about when you think about your pay scale. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, but hopefully that's helpful. Leave any comments below. I'd love to answer any questions. And yeah, please like and subscribe, and yeah, talk to you soon. I just want to make this quick video to kind of, because I get a lot of questions about that, and I think, and when I started out too, I had struggled with this, you know, thinking of like, oh, what do I charge for this, and what are other people charging? But I think it's, like I said, I don't like to think of hourly things, but I think it's, in this situation, it's sort of helpful to give you an idea. Once you figure out like what some people work faster, so they may get more minutes of music per day. But so that's something you need to figure out on your own. And then you can develop your own like rubric or whatever to sort of figure out what to charge. But yeah, like I said, I mean, it's not always about the money. So hopefully these other factors that I mentioned make sense. And you know, you have to think, what are you getting? It's not always monetary what you're getting from the movie. Like, can you use it in your reel? Can you use it for IMDb credit, whatever? You know, I mean, that's whatever. But yeah, you want to build up your career. It depends where you are in your career too. So always think about that. Okay, see you next time.